Harvard Law School professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz was inside the courtroom for former President Donald Trump's New York criminal trial. He is the author of the book, Get Trump, The Threat to Civil Liberties, Due Process, and Our Constitutional Rule of Law. Professor Alan Dershowitz joins me. Good evening, sir. On Monday, you were in the courtroom, and something happened, and the judge shut down the courtroom, threw everybody out, actually excused the jury, but then threw everybody out. You were one of the few that got to stay there. What did you see?
I couldn't believe what I saw. The judge became a different person when he threw the media out. He started berating and really essentially screaming at this very distinguished lawyer, Bob Costello, because he claimed Bob Costello had raised his eyebrows and had stared at the judge. You know, he reminded me a little bit of the psycho in Taxi Driver who says, you looking at me? You looking at me? He had such thin skin. And then he did something I've never seen a judge do in 60 years. He threatened to strike the testimony of the main witness for the defense, in fact, the only substantive witness for the defense, to strike the testimony and punish Donald Trump for something he had nothing to do with because he didn't like the way the witness was looking at him. He said, if you look at me again, or if you raise your eyebrows again, I will take you off the stand, I will strike your testimony, and I will hold you in contempt. And it's just unthinkable that a judge could ever do that. It would be the most fundamental denial of a defendant's Sixth Amendment right. He had already denied the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights over and over again by keeping evidence out that should have come in, although he let everything in the prosecution's case. He allowed Stormy Daniels to testify what missionary position they were in when they had sex, what cologne Trump was wearing, what the nature of his pajamas. None of it's relevant because it doesn't matter whether they had sex or not. That's not what he's being charged with. But when it comes to the defense, he was keeping everything out, including expert witnesses who would have contradicted evidence put in by the other side saying that this was an illegal campaign contribution.
All right, well, there are a couple issues. I taught evidence, and I said before I'd give an F on some of the decisions if he'd been one of my students on evidence that he's done so far. But given that, the second thing, which I think is particularly appalling here, is that he excused the jury. That's common for discussions with witnesses or lawyers. But then he threw the media out and everybody out. And the Sixth Amendment right says right to public trial. It doesn't say mostly public or what the judge only wants the public to hear. So nobody else got to hear this or see this. He threw the media out for this, and it's that's what I find particularly appalling. Besides everything else that is piled up in this.
Well, it's interesting. I was sitting in the front row, and I was planning. If he had actually said, "All right, Dershowitz out," I would have said, "No, Your Honor. I am exercising my Sixth Amendment right as a member of the public to remain here and listen to you and report it." And he would have had the police, clear me out. But at least I would have had my say. He has no right to clear the courtroom. You can clear the courtroom.
Wait, and the dopey media just sits there. He says go, so they get up and leave like a herd of cattle. I mean, they don't defend the fact that these trials are supposed to be open.
Well, they tried to. Some of them yelled and screamed and said, "We want our lawyer to come," but they listened to the police and they left. Look, Trump's constitutional rights were violated. The only issue is whether he was prejudiced. And there was no real substantive discussion or evidence during that period of time.
Well, wait a second. I don't agree. If he intimidates a defense witness, yes, it is. If he turns and says, "Don't look at me, don't raise your eyebrows," and he intimidates a defense witness, says, "I'm going to strike you." Actually, I think there is prejudice to a defendant trying to get a fair trial.
I think he can make that argument. Look, I raised my eyebrows and I stared at him because I couldn't believe some of his rulings. That was so one-sided. Biased. And you have a constitutional right to raise your eyebrows. You have a constitutional right to stare down. It's not as if somebody was screaming or yelling or occupying a campus.